everyone, welcome to the Mehen AMA. This is our first one, so you can ask Mehen anything. We're waiting for a few people to come. It looks like the team has assembled. Really appreciate everyone coming out and joining us and clicking, that reminder button. We got quite a few people who were interested in the AMA. I think it was around 40 to 50 people who said that they were coming. Whether they come or not, that's okay. So if you're interested in sharing what Mehen is all about, what Cardano is all about, stablecoins here, it's coming when many questions are going to be asked. So please hit that retweet button, share and send to anyone who you think that might be interested, because the whole point of this Twitter space is to ask Mehen anything. We have Plutus Plumus. He helped create our smart contracts. We have Steve, the CTO, fantastic developer, and then Matt Plomin. And he's going to help us talk about the regulations and the ins and outs of all things stablecoins here on Cardano. We have a beautiful platform, Cardano, and we want to help create the future of it. So in a couple minutes here, we're going to start the AMA. I have a few questions of my own, and then we'll still probably open it up to the public to ask Mehen anything. And that's the whole point. It's not me asking questions. It's the community.
Hey, Pyro.
Yes.
Let's ask everybody to tweet out the space.
I just did. So
oh,
yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Missed that part, man. I'm sorry. Came in right after.
It was a huge rant. So yeah, please tweet out the space.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So in a couple minutes, I expect us to trip. No, just kidding. Yeah, no, just tweet out the space. Enjoy yourselves. It's a great Monday. It's a start of the week.
Yeah. I just tweeted out to the Axo Degen Corner people, so they'll probably be very interested to ask a lot of things.
Yeah, there's been a pretty hot discussion within Axo's Discord surrounding stablecoins. IUSD, of course, is in that conversation. USDA, of course, is in that conversation, or the lack thereof, due to their problems that they're having. And then USDM, of course, and what's on the horizon, right? So, yeah, it's been pretty cool. I've seen it in other Discords as well right now. That has definitely been a pretty hot topic of conversation surrounding a lot of the DeFi Discords.
Oh yeah. So do we have a list of questions so far, or should we open the floor?
Yeah, we do have a list of questions. I was just waiting a little bit for more people to show up.
You want to banter for a bit, Pyro? I mean, we could kind of talk about, just for a couple minutes, did everybody watch the video with Paul and Damon from Charlie 3? I thought that was probably the best video. It's about Charlie 3, but of course, we were named in there and talked about quite extensively. So I'm curious, anybody else saw that?
Yeah, I saw that. That was actually pretty cool that Damon went on he talked about how excited we are, to be launching that we're on testnet. And he talked about how particularly the Charlie 3 Oracle and what they're doing for the feeds and how it's daily. So if you are interested, that Paul video is actually really informative.
Yeah, I found it very telling surrounding where other projects are like, we need a feed every second. And he goes, well, first off, that's not possible. There's blocks are produced every 20 seconds. So there's that heartbeat, right? That's 20 seconds, approximately. And then from there, you don't need it, that much. It's not as required as you might think. And so they're there to kind of walk you through some of the misunderstandings of what you need as a project. And then, of course, what would be most helpful. Because, of course, that would also be, that particular feed would be very expensive if you're doing it, even every block or every block that gets minted, right? So I'm not sure, everybody quite totally understands that. I did key in on the fact that with Mehen, it's going to be a very low cost proposition there, having to do with the data feed, in that we only need to do it once, compared to others maybe that require better understanding of price due to the fact that they might have more than one token that's interacting with the price of the token, right?
Yes, Matt, what's up?
Let's get started just by talking about some of the things that we've been able to accomplish so far, where we stand when it comes to our development for the on-chain token, where we stand when it comes to banking partners and licenses, and then we can go into discussions about how we interact with the Charlie 3 Oracle, what we've been doing to prepare the way for a smooth launch into the general mainnet blockchain DeFi ecosystem, how the coin is going to be made available on DEXs, and then I guess we'll close with the ever important when question. So I'll just give a little quick update as to for where we are, regulatory speaking. So Mehen has it's 3 companies. So not to get too far into the weeds, but there's Mehen Innovations, which is kind of the umbrella company that does not issue token. There is no token for Mehen Innovations. There's no Mehen token. There's no project token. We've had a few people ask us if there's a thing called Mehen that's launched on Ethereum. That's not us. There's a thing called Mehen that's kind of scamming people around some of the Ethereum EVM sidechains. That's not us. We are only on Cardano, and there is no project token. The Mehen Innovations is a Delaware company, and then there's a subsidiary called Mehen Finance LLC. Mehen Finance holds the U.S. licenses. So as we go state by state applying for licenses to do money transmitter business and conduct business legally and issue the token according to the laws of the various states, Mehen Finance is the company that holds those licenses. There's also a third company that we're in the process of getting licensed called Mehen BVI. That's a British Virgin Islands company. And so that will be structured a lot similar to Tether. So Tether has a British Virgin Islands company that has a virtual asset service provider license. And with that license, they're able to offer their token to non-US people. And the way that Tether has been run, throughout the years, they've always tried to avoid the US, US people. They don't want US regulations. They're operating their company in such a manner that they want to be a little more secretive about the constitution of the reserves. So the US laws that would require them to do that force them to go offshore. But to be able to issue a token that is redeemable for fiat offshore, you need certain licenses in the local jurisdiction. And the British Virgin Islands virtual asset service provider license is the gold standard for licensing what I would consider offshore. Maybe if you're not in the US, it'd be non-US users. So the BVI license is in process. We've got the application ready. Those things take some time. Could be by law they have to issue it within 6 months, and so that could be something that happens late this year, early next year, to have like offshore minting and burning for folks that are not in the US. But when it comes to the US licensing, we have a number of states that we're already able to operate in, a number of other states that we're in the process of getting the applications processed by the state, people that work at the state departments of finance and departments of state, sometimes called the Department of Commerce, depending on which state you're in. It's quite a gauntlet to run through what would be 47 states and 3 territories that require this. So that's where we are there. We have a few banks. We have a bank called FV Bank that's in the Puerto Rico. We have Mercury Bank, which is our kind of corporate treasury bank in the US. We have a couple of other offshore banks. We have inquiries into Deca Bank, that's the Tether Bank. And we have had fruitful conversations with Bank of New York Mellon, who is ready to service us once we get big enough to need their services. So we have a lot of good things happening on the fiat side, on the regulated side. And then I'll let Plutus Plumbus talk about what we're doing on the on-chain side when it comes to the token. We had a successful testament a couple weeks ago of the Charlie 3 Oracle controlled minting mechanism, but I'll let Matt get into that, if you will, please.
Yeah, I can go into that. Yeah, so a few weeks ago we had our first successful testament of the USDM token. So pretty happy about that. Basically, tested to make sure we could mint under the maximum amount, tested to make sure if we attempt to mint more than what the Charlie 3 Oracle says we have available, that it won't work. So that went through. There's other things with other parts of the contracts. It's actually a full-on protocol. It's not just one minting validator. Although it's not just one minting validator. There's other spending validators involved to verify everything, such as the count and referencing the count to the Oracle amount. So there's a good amount of testing that needs to be done with other areas of the protocol in order to be sure we have a very solid and secure protocol. But I feel pretty good about that. It's just that the testing needs to be done and needs to be kind of formalized. So yeah, I'm also open to any questions about basically how things work on chain. And also a question I've heard a lot is USDM going to be a Cardano native token? And the answer to that is yes. It's going to be a Cardano native token. It's going to have a verified policy ID. You're going to be able to put it on any DEX, on any pool, use it in any protocol in whatever permissionless way you want. So in that way, it's going to be a true usable one-to-one fiat-backed stablecoin on Cardano. And that's something I'm particularly very excited about.
The other thing to talk about is like our UI UX, our front end account management platform, and KYC and bank integration. So that's kind of a big lift. We have a wonderful partnership with a protocol known as Plaid. Plaid is, they do KYC, but they also have tight integrations with most US banks. Even the small ones generally have an integration with Plaid. What that does is that prevents us from actually seeing your bank account information. All of the banking transfer, all the banking transfer stuff, and all of the, the fiat to fiat transfers are handled through the Plaid system, which integrates directly with your bank in a way that Mehen can't actually see it. We just tell Plaid where to send the money. And with that, Steve is working on that front end and the middleware and all of the whole stack of the KYC and the bank integrations. And so if you can, Steve, just a little update on that, and then we'll dive into more questions.
Sure. So I've been busy myself. The stuff that I'm working on is the app interface that everybody will use to create an account, submit for KYC, attach bank accounts, and then submit transactions to either deposit or withdraw USD from your account, and then to be able to trigger minting and burning of USDM. Right now, I'm working on setting up our infrastructure and getting pretty far here. I'm actually working part about where people can register and then they have an account and verifies their email. The next part is taking some of the KYC stuff that I had done in the fall and reworking that to fit into this flow. So like this fall, we were talking extensively with Plaid, and we do have a sandbox for us. Basically, it's kind of like their version of it. Sorry, I got a phone call. You guys hear me yet?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
All right.
We cut out very briefly.
Sorry, that's annoying. So using Plaid's testnet, we have triggered their KYC process and gone through that whole thing. So we have that flow, and I just need to integrate that into this new layout and this new configuration that we're working on right now. So things are moving along there. It's great because Plaid does have a lot of capabilities built in for you. It's actually not too expensive compared to a lot of other services. So I really like using it, and I'm looking forward to getting this thing rolled out. So that's about where I'm at right now.
Okay. Now, there's probably going to be a question about USDA, but I'll wait for somebody to ask it. If anybody would like to ask questions, please request speaker, come on up. Plutus Plumbus and Pyro will help you out.
Oh yeah. But yeah, I think now's a good time for people to request speaker.
Yeah. So a few people have sent me questions as well. So please, I'm going to ask questions that I have from other people, and then also please request. We'll probably have one or two people up on stage at a time just to make sure, unless not enough people want to ask questions. But feel free to ask questions. I know we're very transparent. But so the first question someone asked was, what sets your stablecoin apart from other stablecoins in the market, especially those built on other blockchain platforms? So that's other blockchain platforms. Who would like to get that one?
I'll take care of that one. So, hang on a second. I'm trying to solicit from our Discord here. So other blockchains have, I guess there's USDC and USDT. There's Paxos, the Pax Dollar. There's a few other fiat-backed stablecoins that are in the ERC20 chains. The thing about an ERC20 token is on the design phase. ERC20 tokens don't actually live in your wallet. What they do is they have a centralized list of which wallets contain the token, and the issuer controls which wallets hold which token. So if I was to send an ERC20 USDC to Steve, what I'm actually doing with that transaction is I'm sending like a message to the USDC smart contract that says, take 100 USDC out of my wallet and put it into Steve's wallet. And then I'll pay the ETH gas to make that switch happen. And because everything is contained in the ERC20 token within that smart contract, the protocol can be very tightly controlled, and there's not a lot of self-sovereignty that you have with those tokens. That also means, though, that USDC is responsible for facilitating that transaction between me and Steve. So both of us, if either of us comes up on some kind of terrorist list, or if we turn into, if we're discovered that the USDC that's in our wallets is the product of some kind of crime, then then Circle would be participating in that crime to some extent if they were to transfer the USDC around to different people's wallets. And that's why USDC controls the minting and controls the transfers of USDC, because they have to. The protocol of an ERC20 token is that you have to have the token issuer basically sign and bless every exchange of it. That's a difficult proposal for any regulated company to say, well, if you're gonna participate in all the transactions, then you're gonna definitely have to lock up those tokens that go into the mixers or come out of the mixers, or you're going to have to lock up these sanctioned wallets because you participate in the transactions. So the nice thing about Cardano is the only transactions that Mehen actually does is the minting, the sending to your wallet, and then the receiving and the burning and turning it into fiat. So anything that happens outside of that little boundary is not our responsibility. It's not our ability to control it, and we don't have any participation in those transactions at all, except for the fact that the tokens eventually come back to us and enter into our wallets, and then they get burned, and then fiat goes into your wallet. So to that extent, making a fiat-backed stablecoin on Cardano is a lot easier, but it's also a little uncomfortable for a centralized company like Circle to put that dichotomy out there, where you have controllable, centralized, USDC in the ERC20 world, in the EVM world. Then you move over to Cardano, and you have this basically like it was like cash, like free floating Cardano native tokens. So they would really have to rework their entire process. They would have to do something that's entirely outside of the Cardano protocol to be able to launch their token here. And to a large extent, it's also very difficult to get global state control on a UTXO environment. So the way that the protocol looks like, if you're a coder, if you're the blockchain, you look at the token, policy ID and token name. You look at the quantity that's in the UTXO. That's really all you can see on a transaction level basis. So if you were to, mint, usually what you do if you're minting Cardano native tokens and you want to control the supply is you mint a ton, and then you lock them in a smart contract and you only emit them as per the smart contract's discretion. So, there's like a trillion JED out there, and but they're all locked in the JED smart contract, but they're not getting minted and burned. They exist. They're out there. They're just locked in the smart contract. And so we didn't want to do that kind of a thing where we had a ton of tokens that are minted and a ton of tokens that are out there. And the only difference between having them in the smart contract and outside of the smart contract is some sort of unlocking mechanism within the smart contract. So we wanted to very tightly control the minting and burning. And that's why we have the Oracle integration. So every time we mint, which is probably going to be like an overnight process where we mint once a day and then distribute, because the fiat transactions take a little bit of time to settle. So once those fiat transactions settle, then we can mint the tokens, distribute them to people's wallets. But it's only after those fiat transactions settle that we can then mint out. So we have developed a very sophisticated protocol that defines a USDM token that integrates these third parties and these kind of checkers to make sure that nobody out there is just minting USDM willy-nilly without verifying that the reserves are ample. So those are the differences. Very transparent, community first, Cardano native, self-sovereign.
Thank you very much, Matt. So we have a few speakers here. The first one is Fortune, then it's going to be Maddie. So Fortune, thank you for coming up. We really do appreciate you. What's your question?
Thank you for having me, guys. Yes. So it's kind of like a three-tiered question regarding scaling. So just want to know, what is the scaling? What are we looking at once USDM launches on the scaling side of things? Because as you guys already know, DJED, as its current state, can't scale too much. In fact, I think we only have 3 million in circulating supply right now, and that's been like that for some months now. So I want to know about what are your guys' thoughts on scaling once USDM launches? And then I would like to ask your thoughts on USDA, because obviously once we had the news, a lot of people that are aware of USDM, their first thought is, well, if USDA can't come out, what's separating Mehen from Emergo? Since Emergo clearly has resources and all that stuff and whatnot backing USDA, and if they're not launching, what does that mean for USDM, right? And then the last question I have is just about I don't know if you guys have mentioned it, but the blacklisting, right? I feel like that's one of the topics that come to mind when people say, why doesn't Cardano have fiat-backed stablecoins? And it's always I'm hearing blacklisting, the inability to do that. So I would like your thoughts on that as well.
Repeat the first question again for me. Sorry.
Scaling. So what are we when it comes to scaling? What's that look like for USDM when it first launches? I'm assuming later this year.
Okay. Yeah, I can address that. So I think what you mean by scaling is
phone call.
How much USDM can we have on the blockchain so that we can basically have deep liquidity and good wide use of the token,
right.
Correct? Yeah. So I think one of the big issues that we're facing with stablecoins in Cardano right now is capital efficiency. So, for example, you go on Indigo, you need to put up basically $1.20 to mint $1, and even then, that's pretty dang risky to do. You want to go and mint on Jed, you need to put up $4 essentially to mint $1, and you run into the issue where it's like, well, why would I, fundamentally speaking, why would I want to put up more than $1 to create $1? And there's incentives that both protocols do to do that, but in this case, one USDM is worth $1. It's fiat backed. It's 1-to-1. So in that case, you know, the scaling and the scaling of how much token is in circulation is really just how much of dollars do people want to put in as a like tokenized representation onto Cardano, which I think many people do, especially considering, you know, the yield farming rates on like decentralized exchanges like ViFi, MinSwap, WingRiders, Usually Swap, and I think, you know, even Sunday Swap is waking up and revamping its yield farming. So, and you know, then there's other decentralized exchanges like Genius Yield and Axo that are also coming in the near future. So, you know, I think those are big demands that really incentivize people to bring a dollar representation onto the blockchain. And then also another point also regarding scaling, I think, is, you know, how do you, like, if you have so many users, how do you distribute the token, right? So basically, it kind of works like this. Like, the way the protocol works, like, we're able to do like kind of a mass mint of all the tokens that we need to distribute. And that could just be just the one contract interaction. So you're really just doing one mint transaction to service like an n number of users that need their USDM minted. And then from there, with that mint transaction, you could just, after that, you can then send the tokens to the proper wallets, and that way you get good scaling as well when serving to users. So those are some kind of like two angles of scaling, and then I think Matthew Plowman is probably better able to answer your two other questions.
If you think about the ways, there's two regulatory paths that you could take to go forward to make a fiat-backed stablecoin. One of them is that you can partner with a licensed company, and so that's what, if you look at like the BUSD model. So Binance went to Paxos, they hired Paxos to issue a stablecoin for them, right? So for all the Binance users, were able to mint BUSD through Binance, but they did that because the actual issuer by law was Paxos. And that was the regulatory path that BUSD took. The New York Department of Financial Services did not like that path, and so they shut down new minting of BUSD. Now, old BUSD can always be redeemed for fiat, but there's not going to be any more made because they've stopped Paxos from doing that. Paxos is a New York trust company, and it's like you partner with a bank, and then the bank does the issuance. That, you know, the legal, if you dive into the law of it, the actual act that you're doing is you're issuing like a gift card, essentially. And what that is you have to have a license to issue a gift card. Trust companies can issue gift cards, banks can issue gift cards, and money transmitters can issue these as well. And so you can either go to get a banking license, or you can go to partner with a company that is a crypto-friendly trust company. And I'll let USDA really talk about their path and why they chose that path. But the USDA partner ended up not working out for them, and additional ones were not forthcoming. So they could pivot to get their own licenses. They could find a new licensed partner. And I just imagine that those discussions, given what happened with Binance and BUSD, we're not very fruitful. But again, I don't want to really speak for them when it comes to exactly how they plan on going forward. But really think about USDA as like the BUSD experience, and we are the Tether, Circle, USDC, USDT experience, where we are actually getting our own licenses. We are actually going to the regulators ourselves. It's a slow, arduous process. They take a very close look at your management team. They do FBI background checks on all of us, and they do all of that stuff so that they make sure that we're folks who are of good moral character. And they go all the way through our ownership structure, all of our investors. We don't have a whole lot of investors, but those things are really what this like the level of scrutiny that you have to go into if you're going to be your own licensed company. And so I don't know why USDA took the path they took, but that's what they did, and that's why we're able to continue operating, and that's why we're not actually spooked by that by the experience that they've had. I understand why they went that route. It's a very quick route. It's a very kind of very like pay for it and get it quickly route, and it's you can go all 50 states. And you have a good partner there, and it was a sound strategy until it wasn't. So it's a sad thing what's happened to them. They have very good people working there. I'm friendly with all of them. We've been in close touch ever since both of us announced that we're going to be doing what we're doing. And I was very disappointed to see and hear that it ended up like that, because it would be better to have 2 fiat-backed stablecoins than just one. I don't think this is a winner-take-all game, and I hope that more come around so that we can then turn it into stable swaps and go do do pairings and have all that good stuff that helps the community. Definitely. And then your final question was on blacklisting. I don't know. Like, imagine that there's some giant hack and millions of dollars of USDM get stolen from a bridge or from some other treasury wallet or something. I think that Cardano has to deal with that somehow. They need to come into a situation where it would have to be an entire blockchain solution. It wouldn't just be one thing. So it wouldn't just be a problem for USDC or USDM. It'd be a problem for anybody if they want to govern that type of stuff. But that's kind of blockchain. We'll blacklist individuals if you're a bad actor. We'll blacklist you if you're a fraud. We'll blacklist you if you're a criminal trying to do crimes with USDM. We won't let you have fiat. We won't take your fiat. None of that stuff will work. But when it comes to locking them within the ecosystem, that's just not how Cardano works.
Thank you very much for answering those questions. Thank you, Fortune, for having those questions. Those are really strong asks. Maddie, all right, my man, it's your turn.
Hello. Yeah, it's not really a question. I wanted more to comment. So first of all, thank you very much for all your efforts. This is really appreciated. But what I wanted to say is that many people, including myself, actually were thinking that the style of USDC, where you have some sort of contract and all this blacklisting already on the contract level, this is actually necessary in order to get the licenses. Let's say across the world in general. Of course, there are a lot of different countries, and even between states in the US, there are differences. But I'm just saying that I think this was somehow a false assumption, most likely, it seems, because you are trailblazing a path with Cardano native assets of the fact that smart contract based stablecoin is not strictly critical. Maybe it's preferred as actually this. If I have any question, this would be if it would be preferred by the regulators, or there is absolutely no difference if it's a native asset or smart contract based token. And when I say just before you answer the question, one clarification. I am aware that you are blocking, because you just mentioned it, but you are blocking in the off ramps only, on and off. What I'm talking about blocking was on the actual blockchain, right? Circle can actually block a particular address, um, on the blockchain.
So to answer that, Cardano native tokens can't be blocked on the blockchain once they're out of a contract, once they're outside of a contract that may control them. So once the token is minted and in your wallet, it's pretty much permissionless.
No, I am aware of this, but I'm just saying that it's amazing that you managed to get approvals for it from regulators, because we were thinking, and I say collectively, that it's only possible, like, let's say, like USDC is doing on Ethereum. Otherwise, it will not be accepted, in other words.
I get the sense that USDC is happy to have to do that. I think that they want to do that for user experience reasons, and not. I mean, they do have to do it because they are interacting with they every time an ERC20 token is transferred, they have to do part of that transfer. So they are basically participating in every transfer. So there's a difference there between what a Cardano native token gets transferred by and what a ERC20 token gets transferred by. But the other thing to think about is, I mean, we're getting the same license as exchanges would get for the offshore. So if you can allow Bitcoin transfer, you know that there's no permissioned transfer in the Bitcoin blockchain. And if you can go and take Bitcoin on and off of exchanges, if you can pass it around from one wallet to another without any permission, and then take it to an exchange and then redeem it for cash, there's really no difference. You know, if you were to abstract away the fact that it's Bitcoin versus USDM, it's the same kind of a thing. So if Coinbase or if Binance can take Bitcoin and turn it into cash, then we can certainly take cash and turn it into USDM, and take USDM and turn it back into cash, because the control mechanisms are exactly the same on chain.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think this is a mistake that many of us in Cardano, including myself, make, that we don't necessarily need to copycat everything from Ethereum, because it's not for sometimes regulatory purposes that it's done. But like you mentioned, Circle wants to do that. And I think a lot of people are actually thinking that it's an absolute requirement, the way Circle is doing it. And you are proving, and you will be proving with your rollout, that it's not a requirement. And it's very good news, I would say, moving forward, because even some issuers of stablecoins, I also talked to a couple, by the way, smaller ones, and they were thinking of going to Cardano. And the first thing, they have is how Ethereum works, right? It's like, okay, so I would like to have something like that. Well, we don't have at the moment smart contract-based tokens, apart from CIP68, which is an NFT and so on and so forth, but that's a different story, right? Many people just have this in mind, that it has to be a copycat. And I just wanted to really emphasize that you are trailblazing a very important thing, more for smaller players. Like, let's say if somebody wanted Euro, I don't know if you even have such plans or anything like that, but you are trailblazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, that we appreciate it. Between the Euro coin and the trailblazing, Plutus Plumbus might be able to talk about the plans for the smart contracts. I don't know if that's in scope here, Matt, and the patents.
Say real quick, sorry, I had freight delivered to my house today, so I disappeared there for a little bit, but I am back. Sorry about that.
Well, thank you, Stephen, for being back. We appreciate that. But yeah, so Maddie, you make a good point about trailblazing for others, and we do have a patent for the smart contracts. But Plutus or Matt, would you like to talk about that?
It's just pending so far. It's not complete. The patent is just pending, but it's global state control in the UTXO environment. It's an interesting smart contract system patent that, if Circle wants to come and license it from us to launch on Cardano with with a very tightly controlled global state, we're happy to talk with them about that. Yeah.
All right. So it's still up for anyone to ask questions. So please come up. No question is any question could be asked. So a second person came to me, and Maddie, I'll ask you your question after this. But someone said, how does your stablecoin achieve the price stability for the Cardano network? Can you explain if this is algorithmic? So again, we know that's fiat, but would anybody want to take that, or should we just leave it at that? It's a fiat-backed stablecoin, one of one. So we have U.S. dollars in the bank.
Yeah, I would say yeah, it's not algorithmic. It's the thing I like about it, is just that it's not complicated to understand, how it gets a backing. It's kind of like how the United States, we used to be gold backed. We're not anymore. Now, I don't even know if you want to call it an algorithm. It's just how much money they can print. But yes, for us, for USDM, it's $1 backed.
Fantastic. Yeah. So any question could be asked, even something like that. Thanks for. I guess we have more questions. Maddie, you can ask your question. And Fortune, again, if anyone is interested, any question it could be asked. Maddie, go on.
Thank you. Actually, the question came because Matthew mentioned something about this global state and patent. So for those of you that are not aware, not everybody is a Plutus developer here, right? A global state on Cardano is tricky, not impossible, but difficult. And various people are trying different ways, and clearly you found some solution for which you are patenting. But I wanted to ask, what do you need this for? So what functionality in the smart contract you require the global state? Because typically people use it for things like blacklisting, for instance, some wallets, right? So you have, or actually people use it for a lot of things, but one example would be in stablecoin, would be potentially a list of blacklisted accounts, if you will, which is a global state effectively. So I want to understand, what are you using this global state pending patented global state functionality for? Oh.
I hesitate to step out in front of the devs, but Matt, if you care to, or I will. The question was really what's the global state used for? The Charlie 3 Oracle feed that we get into the smart contract shows the bank account balance. And when we get more bank accounts, we'll add them to the feed, and we'll have a total reserve amount. And that total reserve amount needs to match the total tokens outstanding. So you can find the total number of tokens that are outstanding on the blockchain really in like two different ways. You can either do you can look at a blockchain snapshot, and you can roll out your DB sync instance and look at that. And one of the things that we saw happen just a few months ago, and they were very, very upfront about it, was that ADA handles accidentally minted they double minted a handle because they were looking at a blockchain snapshot that was a little out of date. And so they didn't actually have a true view of how much, whether that handle had been minted yet. And I think there was a small network outage on Cardano where there were no transactions processed for a number of minutes. And then between those blackouts and the mintings, somebody tried to mint the same one twice, or two different people, and they ended up, minting the token again. And so they got it back, they burned it. They're very upfront about what happened. And I don't know if anybody would notice, but that kind of a thing is really not as secure as you'd like it to be. The other thing is, we want to be able to control the minting not just by a single key pair or a simple multi-sig transaction. We want part of the creation of the token itself to be dependent on whether the reserves are sufficient. So we end up having this, there's a key pair and there is the feed, And there is, a couple of other controls to make sure that we don't just have willy-nilly minting. But the problem with being able to understand just how much USDM is out there is you need to have a place where you can look that definitively shows exactly how much USDM is on the blockchain without doing a blockchain query that could be a few blocks behind the tip. So the method that Plutus Plumbus made in conjunction with a few other very smart developers on Cardano was that we came up with the system that we have in place that helps to ensure that the feed we get from Charlie 3 matches the total number of tokens that are outstanding, and we can check that versus the blockchain snapshots without actually having to use a snapshot.
Yeah, thank you. And I believe that you are really trailblazing a lot of things here, and where for instance Circle, they have a lot of capital and so on and so forth, but they don't want to work on Cardano or something at the moment, let's say, without, as you know, because you probably all of you know, or if not, without some large sum of money which has to be provided to them. But even if that money would be provided to them, hypothetically speaking, they wouldn't have all the knowledge and trailblazing that you have done on the Plutus side of the things. They have, of course, on the regulatory front, but not on the Plutus. So yeah, that's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. So I saw Fortune had his hand up. My friend, I'm gonna go to Power 2 because he's kind of new, if that's okay, and then we'll go to you, and then Crypto King.
Awesome. That's fine.
Thanks very much. Hey, I had a couple questions. One was kind of technically related. I know you just forged a partnership with Charlie 3, but curious if you have plans for any other Oracle providers, like maybe even Chainlink or OrcFax when they go live. So that was the first question. And then the second question was really along the lines of what I kind of joined late, and I heard, Matt, what you were saying earlier about you guys going directly to the regulatory agencies and filing with them for compliance. So does that mean you're doing that on a state-by-state basis? And if so, are you at a point where you can kind of, share maybe with some specific jurisdictions, if you're really close, or, maybe I know you hate the timeline question, but I'm just kind of trying to figure out, is this, years away, or, is there any color you can
No.
provide on that?
So let's get back to we'll get back to fundamentals. I'm sorry, I hate I don't hate the two question things, but I hate that I keep forgetting the first
That's
question
okay.
when I get to thinking about the second
Sorry.
question.
Sorry.
I'll do the second one first. So the second one is which states? So Montana, Wisconsin, Wyoming, Texas, California. We're working on Washington, Nevada, and a couple of Midwestern states right now. There are a few states that you can operate in without having a license. And so those really are kind of the states that don't regulate crypto. The more you think of the more crypto-friendly states that would allow you to do this kind of thing, that's kind of where we're aiming for first. Those are the most achievable. But back to an earlier question is, how do you keep the value on chain? Well, you keep the value on chain by having a lot of people that can arbitrage any kind of DPEG.
Yeah.
So if you see it trading for 95 cents or 99 cents or whatever the number is, you could go and buy it and then cash it out into fiat and get your 100 cents on the dollar back, right? So that's how you achieve stability, is by having people actually get in there and harvest the money that can be made from a deviation. In order to have those people, though, you have to be launched in a sufficient number of areas. And so if there's nobody that can, buy it and burn it in the states where you are, then it's likely that you're going to depeg in some manner until somebody can come in and get that. So the more you think about it like it's a fire hose, you can either put out a fire with one big hose or with lots of little hoses. Maybe we have some whale out in Montana, right, who could help. Or maybe we have somebody in Texas that's got big bags that can just arbitrage the hell out of this thing. like that would be great to have because it would help to ensure stability on chain. And there's this kind of a balancing act between, all right, well, once the tech is ready, do you just go and launch in a few states and then maybe disappoint people? Or you get an experience on chain where the deviations are big because there's nobody there to correct it when it deviates from a dollar? Like those are the kinds of things that you really have to tease through. Even once you're technically ready to operate, you could do so legally. You have the banking partners and the technology and all the things are lined up. Like, do you actually push that first domino down to get things rolling? And that's really the question. That's the answer to the when question. We expect it, really the offshore stuff. The fact that we've decided to go through the offshore channel is going to help a lot because that just allows us to get a ton more people onboarded into the ecosystem and using USDM. And now your first question, Party Edge, I'm sorry I didn't remember it.
Yeah, it was along the Oracle lines, about having multiple sources for, yeah.
Yeah, so we actually talked with OrcFax, and we haven't talked with Chainlink, but Chainlink doesn't actually do anything on Cardano. They don't issue Cardano, Oracle, whatever.
Yeah, I was thinking.
The things that the Oracle.
I was thinking back to that announcement that was made a few summits ago. I know I haven't seen anything that ever came of that, so that's kind of was part of the reason why I was asking you because you're probably more in tune.
I think that the folks that do use Chainlink and they grab the value from the EVM world, and then they put it on chain themselves.
Okay.
I think that's how that works. I don't know that Chainlink actually does any issuance yet. We did talk to OrcFax though. We'd like to have, certainly you don't want to have a single point of dependency, a single point of failure. Right. And so if Charlie 3 should, if something should happen at Charlie 3, like are we dead in the water? The answer is no. We can change the Oracle. There's like a safety switch between the Oracle and the protocol that allows us to change the Oracle if Charlie 3 should no longer be able to provide the values or if something happens there. OrcFax has very high standards, and the fact that our reserve balance is just a simple feed from our bank wasn't actually good enough for them to put it on chain. And I think that they wanted to make sure that the reserve is not just one bank account, and currently, as we launch, it will be, and then as we outgrow that bank account, then we'll go into others, and we'll have multiple sources. But to the extent that they wanted, and their protocol requires you to have, 2, 3, 4 sources that confirm the same data, I'm not sure that a reserves verification function is good for them. So they have. They'll do well with things like weather data or sports scores or those things that you can get from 2 or 3 or 4 sources that you can do. But I don't know how we can get to a second or third source that attests to the balance in our bank account.
So Matt, to that point,
that was really the hurdle. We didn't. That's why we didn't use OrcFax. And we also like Damon and Charlie 3. We met them back at CNFTCon, and there was a conference between them and Rare Bloom that we were able to get really familiar with them and the protocol.
Okay. Why from the onset, though, would you not want to diversify your funds and have your funds dispersed across multiple banks?
It's operationally messy, and the types of solutions you need when you have $50,000 in the bank account are not available. The types of solutions that you need when you're a fiat-backed stablecoin that's going to be operating at scale with potentially millions, hundreds of millions in the reserve are not the same solutions that are available to you when you're putting $50,000 in the bank. They're just not the same. They're not available to you. So we have talked with Bank of New York, and they're very open to working with us when we're able to use their institutional services, when we are that big. We're just simply not that big yet. And we do have, sort of down the road, we're not going to start integrating a bunch of operationally challenging systems that we don't need yet until we're that big. We're building it so that we can be, but we're just not using them in early days. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that does.
Well, thank you very much, Power 2. I love the questions. And so, yeah, I'm going to shoot over to Fortune.
Thank you. Wanted to ask.
1 second. Power 2, your mic is on.
Sorry about that.
It's cool. Yeah, Fortune, go ahead.
Yeah, wanted to ask, have you guys already implemented the fee structure for minting and burning? And also, if you guys, ideally, what is the time frame we're looking for when it comes to USDM hitting mainnet?
We have not developed the fee structure yet, and it's a little of that's in flux because of our bank partner. They have a few different ways of doing fees, so we don't actually know what our fee structure is going to be yet. Not exactly. We do know that they'll be able to accept USDC, and there's a $15 charge that they charge us for every USDC deposit we get. So that's pretty cool. But we need to charge $15 then to folks that mint using USDC. We would like there to be no minting fee for fiat transactions. We would like there to be like a small burn fee if you withdraw the fiat, but that's another thing entirely. I think that it's entirely possible that we come to a situation where what I'd like to do is have really two steps to burning and redeeming. So if you say if you see your USDM trading for 99.9, 99.8, 99.7, 95 cents, whatever it is, on chain, you should be able to buy that, get $100 or 100% in an account with Mehen, and then if you see USDM trading for 101, 102, then you could go and get it for 100 using that immediately and not having to do any kind of waiting for fiat transfers to settle. But then if you were to withdraw from that account, there would be a fee. And that's kind of conceptually where we're going with this. We don't want it to be mint fee, burn fee, X, Y. That just doesn't. That's just not fair for people, I think. And I think if you have these mint fees and burn fees, then that actually widens the channel of deviation that would be profitable to arbitrage, right? Narrows the channel to be profitable. So we wider the DPEG. So we want to have as low fee as possible, but then part of that is like working with the bank and understanding the cost of actually doing a fiat transfer.
Thank you very much for replying to that, Matt. And Fortune.
Oh, and when mainnet. When mainnet's going to be like, I don't know, September, October, probably. I'm gonna put some fire under Steve and Plutus Plumbus though with saying dates. So I'm not going to get out in front of that.
Say more like October, not September, but yeah.
We didn't start the fire. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to sing. Thank you, Fortune.
Okay, stop. Okay, stop.
Thank you, Fortune. All right, Crypto King.
Hey guys, really simple question. If you overmint somehow, or is there any way to do like what Ada Handle does and take the token out of someone's wallet without them actually having to sign off on moving that out of their wallet?
That's not what Ada Handle did. They asked the person to send it back, and they did. There would be no way for us to take it out of your wallet. No.
I was talking more like the virtual handles. So you can give some guy a sub handle and just take it away.
Well, this is going to be a pretty conventional Cardano native token when it's viewed from a protocol perspective. So no, we couldn't claw it back from your wallet if that's what you're asking.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we're going to take the time here to say retweet the space. Let's get some energy back and get more people involved in learning about the Mehen USDM, the decentralized world of Cardano. I have a third question from what people are asking me. And please again, I just want to say before I say my question, request, ask Mehen anything. You already heard quite a few people on stage. Easy questions, softball questions, hard questions, questions about who we are, who the heck is Plutus Plupus, Steve, Matt. We all know Blockjock from Cardano over coffee, but yeah, no, just keep coming. Ask the questions. The third question is, oh, we've already asked this question. It was, what measures are in place to ensure security and stability of the stablecoin smart contract on Cardano? Is that a different question than what? So the security and stability, I felt was the what? I guess yeah. Has that question been asked, Matt?
Security, yeah. Stability depends on the marketplace. Causing it to be stable, getting it in and out of the of the dollar, so you can arbitrage that dollar yourself and see where it's deviated and capture that value, which pays you to keep things stable on chain.
All right, so I'm gonna move past this question. What advantages and benefits of the user is a stablecoin on the blockchain? So, what benefits the stablecoin? What are the advantages of having a stablecoin on a blockchain?
Take it away, Plumbus.
He might be on a meeting.
He might be out.
Yeah. So, Steven, would you like to take this?
Yeah, I could do it from my ADA Bounties perspective. So ADA Bounties, that was my Catalyst Fund 9 that got funded this past fall, and I just completed it this past month. And so when you get your payments, you get paid in ADA. My first payout, I think, was at it was either like 41 or 44 cents. There was a January one. It was at like 31 cents, and then as we know, it's gone down like as far as like 24 cents approximately. It did shoot up there for a little bit, but then it's gone down again. Since I run a pool, I put everything into my pool, but I did have to pay taxes in January, so I sold my ADA that I got at 31 cents, and I was a little upset about that for a while, but you got to do what you got to do. Now, if I was able to convert it to a stable coin easily, versus sending it to Coinbase, selling it for dollars, and then putting that in my bank account, if I could instead convert it to a stable coin and just hold it until I do want to convert it to ADA and then say like put it against my pledge or whatever, that just would give me a much more stable reserve of cash to say pay for taxes or pay for anything that has to do with my pool or pay for cloud services and stuff like that nature. As we've seen over the last year and a half, the economy has been up and down, the global economy even. The market has been all over the place. It seems like there's certain news that comes out, and like the SEC news last week with XRP, everybody was all happy and everything shot up. Of course, then if you were in a stable coin, that doesn't help you, but that's far from what the norm has been. So having a US dollar backed stable coin helps you to at least keep some of your crypto in a stable price range. So, when you pay your taxes, at least in the US, if you sell and you have a big gain, you got to pay taxes on all of it. If you sell and you have a big loss, you can typically only deduct $3,000 of that a year. You can't deduct like $30,000 or whatever you would lose. So there's tax implications there and everything else. So yeah, it helps calm the waters, especially like what we have, a market like we have today. At least that's, my perspective on it.
one thing I like to think about when I think about risk is if you're building a project on Cardano, if you're Book.io, or if you're, I don't know, you're different protocol on Cardano, that your success is largely based on the success of the Cardano blockchain. So you pay your team in ADA, you pay your team, on a regular basis, or you pay your team in your project token, which trades against ADA on dexes. Your payroll and your business success is both tied to the same factor. So if Cardano has a rough time, if something happens with the protocol that folks don't like it, if ADA goes down, all these things they're business risks, they're business risk factors, but they're also factors of risk that you don't want to take with your treasury. Usually your treasury, your payroll, your what if you have cloud hosting services costs, if you have subscriptions that are paid in fiat, not only are your successes, but also your treasury is based on whether ADA does well. And so you really compound risk on top of risk. If you look at, say, like the Ethereum DEXs, all of the project tokens trade against USDT or USDC. Those exchanges separate the risk of the protocol from the risk of the project. Meld token trades on Cardano versus ADA, and the success of the Meld protocol now is based on the success of the Cardano blockchain, and now I guess the Avalanche blockchain. And to the extent that they have different risks, they also are kind of doubled up with their ADA risk, because the Meld token then trades against ADA. And it's the same way for every project that's building on Cardano. So if you can divide the risk of the project from the risk of the ADA, or the ADA price risk, or the Cardano blockchain adoption risk, you can really be a lot more careful about your risk controls. So that's really where I see a fiat-backed stablecoin as essential in the blockchain. And really any stablecoin will do that job, will separate kind of your risk from your blockchain's risk. But to the extent that all of our project tokens trade against ADA, then there's not so much a separation there.
Yeah, thanks for the person who asked that question. I see we have a new person ask questions. Gold Rush, thank you for coming up.
Hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm having a little trouble with my headphones right now, but I think we're working. So I was going to ask about, it seems to me that if you do end up creating a good product with low fees that's attractive, you're going to end up with a lot of fiat. And so I was curious how it's going to work with like FDIC insurance and things like that, since there are limits to that sort of thing. And I think that those are per account holder and not necessarily per account. So do you foresee yourself having money basically just spread all around the world in different banks and I'm not sure how it works in other parts of the world with depositor insurance and things like that, but I imagine you'd try to keep it below those limits at each bank. How would that work exactly?
There are a lot of services. No, there's not a lot. There are plenty of services that are out there that will divide your assets among a number of banks. So, for example, there's one it used to be called Promontory. Now it's called, I forget what it's called. It's a different company, but it used to be called Promontory. There's one that's run out of Dreyfus now. They basically take your account and they divide it among a number of different banks that they put no more than 250,000 in each bank, and then from there they'll get you insurance on like $250 million, or so $150 million as a max. So they have 600 banks where they put the deposits. There's only one point of contact there. It would be kind of a custodial bank where you transfer the assets to, and then they retransfer it to a number of these 600 banks. If you have to go in or out of the account in a given day, then that's all handled through kind of a one point for ease of operational use. And that's the kind of tool that I think we would make use of. It would be the trouble with that is there are not a lot of banks on the other side of it. Of those 600 banks that would be accepting the deposits, many of them do not want to bank any crypto people. So that's the other thing, is if you're a crypto native company, even if you're regulated and licensed and you're above board and you only onboard, good KYC cleared people, and you only interact with folks that are definitely not on the OFAC sanctions list, still some banks don't want to do anything with blockchain. So that really limits your availability. If you look at what Circle has done, is they've hired BlackRock to manage the reserve in a treasury and government agency money market fund. So it's all US government securities that are short dated and liquid. It's in a diversified portfolio, but then they also have balances that are what I would call like forward deployed at a number of different banks. And so they were at the Silicon Valley Bank, they were at Silvergate, they were at Signature, they're at Cross River Bank, they're at a few other banks that, that Silvergate, Signature, and Silicon Valley all failed. They had deposit runs, and then USDC was of uncertain, there was uncertain how much they would recover there, and then they had a DPEG. So that's one of the risk management factors you have to do, is you cannot put, whatever billions of dollars into a bank deposit. That's foolish. You shouldn't ever have that much money with one counterparty. So the mutual fund route is a good route to go. AAA money market funds are usually very safe and stable. They don't yield as much as maybe if you wanted to be aggressive with it. Like you can't do like a tether thing where you just lend out money to affiliates and whatever. That's messy. So we won't do any of that. But what we would do is we would start to find FDIC insured partners that would be able to allow us to have deposits at the FDIC insured deposit limit. There would maybe only a very few of those that will bank crypto companies. And then from there, we work further into getting, government securities, treasuries, agencies, and have that be custodied at a bank like BNY Mellon, who's going to prove to be a very good partner, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully that satisfied you, Gold Rush. If it's okay with the team, I'd like to stay the 2 hours to 12:30, or we could do it finish a little bit earlier. You guys could tell me if that's okay or not. And I also want to just tell people to retweet and let everyone know, it's still going on. There's so much to learn, and people are still coming up. So we have 8 events. You can ask your question.
Okay, so hi everyone. Hopefully you guys can hear me.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Awesome.
Sounds great.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for the space, because for people like in my case, that I'm very interested in stablecoin, and we've been kind of like talking to a few companies lately for our project, including Circle. But of course, we know the hurdles. Something that we are definitely very, very interested in is with regards to the fiat on-ramp, because for our project, our ideal goal would be to onboard people not from Cardano, not even blockchain, but people from different companies, marketers, etc., etc., etc. And one of the things that, of course, everyone is asking us is regarding the credit card payments and things like that. We've been talking to different projects. We couldn't find any in the Cardano space. Most of them are either in Ethereum, Polygon. And there are other projects, and as a matter of fact, there are some Catalyst proposals from some Cardano members that we are working closely with regarding kind of like establishing kind of like building bridges from as we said, those kind of like external, let's say, providers from Ethereum, Polygon, etc. to Cardano. So just wondering from your side if you think that your project could help address these issues. And also, it would be, if you think that this is something that is not part of kind of like your core kind of like competencies, if this is something that maybe if it's worth probably onboarding or trying to engage with those other kind of like Cardano members that they are trying to address that specific thing. And also personally from our side, we definitely for our project provide kind of like a fiat on-ramp. Cardano, crypto payments, of course, is one of the things, but the other option would be credit card payment. So just wondering from your side, is like if that is something that you guys are already working on, if that is not part of it, and what would you suggest? Thank you.
There are very few payment solutions providers that will do Cardano credit card payments. We've got a couple that are in the works. We've talked with a few. Really what it comes down to is if you're able to work with Cardano, are the fees right? So do we think that somebody would care to pay a 4.5% transaction fee to get a stablecoin? I don't know what the answer is. I think my instinct says that sounds like a lot, but that's really where the going rate is. If you look at the Moon Pays of the world, that's what you're getting as far as transaction fees when it comes to buying ADA. And we can work with those same providers to have them buy USDM. So that's like step number one is whether it's a good idea. And step number two is because we're minting only what we have fiat for, we would need to mint and then give that to the credit card company, right? So we would have to go and mint it, have to take out of pocket, mint some, and then give it to MoonPay so that when you go to MoonPay and buy it, then you would get it directly from them. So that's tricky. So that's kind of step one. The other thing is we are working with a bank that will accept USDC, and so we could take USDC directly in and then issue USDM. I think there's about a 45-minute delay for that. There's a $15 flat fee, regardless of the amount, to receive the transaction on the Ethereum side. So we could do that. I think that the thing that excites me about going this route with money service business licenses and owning our own destiny is that when you see these categories on the Project Catalyst that say, well, we build on InMaker or build on Atala Prism or build on Macamada or these various challenges that have come up through the rounds, I could definitely see a process where we say we will seed a company that will build on USDM by taking in USDM, wrapping transaction services around it, and then instead of having a bunch of people coming to mint and burn with individual accounts, then there would be sort of a managed service that somebody could build on top of it. But that's what's so great about living in this kind of permissionless world where folks are just free to innovate as they see fit. So if they see an opportunity to do something with USDM, we will definitely work with them to help them build the tools that they need, or at least, allow them to, to come and KYC as a business, and then conduct those businesses, as appropriate. So, I hope we see a bunch of people kind of crop up in the ecosystem to make use of this token and do innovative things that we're not even thinking about on. I like the idea of doing like payroll, right? Payroll on chain, or project treasury on chain in USDM, and then maybe having a third party to manage those services. Those are the kinds of things that we're kind of bouncing around our heads when it comes to roadmap. And the more that we think about, are we going to build it, or are we going to hope the community builds it? We'd rather the community build it, just because we don't have really the bandwidth to do everything that's possible, or even really think of everything that's possible, right?
Yeah. No, and also, to your point, it's not only that, but something that you spot on before regarding to minimize risks, because it's not the same when you can rely on a stable coin that when you are relying on, all the fluctuation that is going on in the market as well. So for small project, it's definitely important.
Yeah, thank you. I hope that was sufficient. It sounds like it was. Aqua Farmer, you're up.
Well, thank you for having me. I'll have two questions, if I can, and I'll mention them one at a time so you don't have to remember. My first question would be about big exchanges, so like Binance or Coinbase. So literally wondering if there was any inquiries, because we know these big exchanges are very expensive to list. So what would be the steps to get stablecoin on these exchanges?
Not very many exchanges will list Cardano native tokens, directly. So I think there's really only MEXC. I don't know if KuCoin does. We've had initial conversations with these guys, but again, it's the same problem as we face with the credit card companies, where the credit card company has they have the ability to take in transactions and take in payments and then send out. But until we tightly integrate their payment process with our bank account and then with the oracle that controls the minting, we would have to really like pre-mint and send them out, which is going to require us to dig into our own pockets and mint our own before it's out there in the ecosystem. And I don't know how much we can actually do of that until we're larger. So we have, and actually we've talked with Cardano Foundation about getting us in touch with those centralized exchanges for listings and things, and they've been fairly helpful. It's just a matter of waiting until we're big enough. So that'll happen, but it'll be a while still.
Okay, thank you. My second question is about your proposal in Project Catalyst. I understand that you submitted proposal. I'm just wondering, I'm not trying to be negative, but how would you be affected should that funding be not fulfilled or would be just partial? Thank you.
Maybe somebody else wants to take that. I don't want to say that. I don't want to be too down about it. I would be very sad, and it would be very. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Matt, he's been working on these licenses for a while. I mean, I don't know what was that last. Well, it's over a year now, right, Matt? When was or almost a year?
Yeah, it's been a year.
Yeah,
about a year.
Yeah. So in that meantime, we have been working with, like I said, we've been working with Plaid, and we've been trying to work with some bank partners. Some of the bank partners changed, which that could be painful, but we've seen what the Fed has been doing and everything else that's going on. So we're trying to work through that. If we don't get funded, I mean, we did apply for funding in Fund 9. We didn't get funded. Things went slower. It's hard to get help when you can't necessarily pay people. Right now, most of us are people who've been here for a long time now, and like we believe in it and we want it to happen, so we're doing it. It's just that if we don't get that funding, it makes it harder for us to, it's a bigger burden on us to put the infrastructure up, to do all the development, because everything is then coming out of our pockets. And sometimes life can get in the way of that and cause delays and other things. So while I'll say that personally, like I would still be working on it, it definitely would not be at the forefront of my side project and such when if I'm getting paid for other things and not necessarily for this. Not that I wouldn't do it, right? But we all have bills to pay, and there's the real world reality getting paying for things that we need to deal with and such. So long story short, we will still carry on, but it will be a longer road, and it's just going to continue to delay us being able to push it out.
That's a good way of putting it. In the intervening year since we did not get funded in Project Catalyst on Fund 9, Steve has built the Meld Bank Manager minting site, and he's launched data bug bounties, which were both funded by, the Meld funded the Meld Mint, and Bug Bounties was funded by Catalyst Fund 9. So those types of things got priority. And that, we can kind of expect a similar outcome if we don't get funded again this time. Other things will take priority, and then development on USDM will be slow, but, again, step by step, day by day.
Yeah, thank you. Blockjock.
Yeah, I think the one thing to add to that is surrounding the funding, which is obviously important. And it is something that not only will it help Mehen move forward and at a quicker pace, because one, will be able to pay people who have obviously put a lot of hours in already into this particular project, and we'll be able to onboard a few more with the security and knowing that we can, pay for their services, which, of course, any one of these people that are working on this is extraordinarily valuable, right? The other side of that, though, is that the community side. And it feels as though from last fund, we just barely missed in Fund 9. And that was during an environment where, fiat-backed might not have been such a good solution for everybody to think about. And now, because of everything that's happened in the regulatory environment, it has kind of come and proven around that we currently were on the right track. We were thinking in the right manner, and we're being responsible. And with that, I think community is starting to rally around us, thus meaning that we should see a little bit more outpouring of support in the vote process surrounding that. And the other part of that is that the ask based on the amount within the challenge for the funding there is not that high. So we're obviously wanting to be able to pay for everything that we're doing, but at the same time, we're not over asking for anything. So with that said, yeah, it would be disappointing. I agree with that. But it really feels as though now that I really think like we've got the support necessary in order to kind of bring it home.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so just with that said, I put on the big billboard here our Fund 10 Catalyst proposal. Yeah, we've been roaring for an entire year, cooking and creating and making sure, like Mehen was created out of a need for a stablecoin. We're community first. We're drawn from the community. Uh, we have quite a few state pool operators. Plutus Plumbus came from the Plutus Pioneer program, and so we're a collection from Cardano. So we want the future of Cardano to be prosperous, and we really do believe in Mehen and stablecoin and projecting for the future. So your help, it really matters to us. We're not some big corporate entity. We're here for we're here for the magic, and we're here for the ethos. So we do appreciate every single one of you guys coming here and making the magic happen with us. With that said, Fortune, yeah, you can ask your question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask the proposals that you guys have outlined, are they in the DeFi category? And if they are, I would really hope that, and and you guys are aware that MinSwap is launching their proposal. They're doing voting right now to, use their locked ADA to be participating in the Catalyst stuff. So I would hope to see you guys' proposals, if it's in the DeFi category. It should be. I wouldn't imagine why I wouldn't, but I would hope to see that listed as one of the top 20 proposals that they'll have for their users to vote on. Because, like you said, like we all agree, right now, outside of, yes, we have JED and IUSD, we really do need a fiat-backed stablecoin. And right now, USDM is what we have. And from what I'm hearing, you guys sound really good. I'm really, really intrigued. I had my skepticism because of USDA, but a lot of the questions that were asked here really cleared that up. So I'm hoping to see some type of movement to get you guys the funding you need. And I also wanted to ask just regarding APY and stuff like that. Is there, with the Mehen accounts that people create and start using USDM, are you guys in talks dealing with, savings accounts and stuff like that, interest and all that? Or is that something that is probably not in the purview right now?
I'll answer the catalyst, that Matt can answer about the interest. Yeah, so we're in dApps and integration. That's where our proposal is. And as far as Catalyst goes, it's new every funding. It's a new iteration of Catalyst. So finding where you fit in is always a work. We felt that dApp and integration made sense for Mehen. And so that's the answer for the first question. The second question, I guess you can answer, Matt.
Yeah, it is. I think it's been tagged with DeFi. If you look at the tags, I think maybe that's what you were saying, Fortune.
Yeah, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that you guys are able to be like, once MinSwap adds the top 20 proposals, I'm hoping that you guys are going to be able to be in that group.
Yeah, I mean, what we would like to do. So regarding interest, that'd be a great honor to be included in that list from MinSwap. That would really help things a lot, I bet. The thought about the interest. So that would be offering a banking product. So we couldn't do that, just for the same reason that some of the centralized exchanges got into trouble for the custodial staking rewards they were passing through. We'd be kind of hooked, caught up in that same thing. We're issuing gift cards. We're issuing what's called a store of value card, the store of value item that's contained on the blockchain. And what that is it will store the value for you, but it won't increase value. It's not an investment contract. It's not a security. So we need to just stay in our lane with that. What we are planning on doing, though, is making agreements with each of the different DEXs on the platform that we will pass through a portion of the interest as a marketing budget into those DEXs so that they can promote the use of the stablecoin. And if that includes yield farming with their own token or yield farming with a different token, that would be entirely up to the DEXs to figure that out. But that is the plan, is to work with them as like a marketing partner.
Was that sufficient, Fortune?
That was awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. It seems like we're no longer on Twitter. We're now on X. I see a logo on the top left saying X. So whatever that means, I have no idea. But that's things are changing. Yeah. So here we go. We're up to be here for another 30 minutes. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to request and respond. I have a few more questions. One of them, I guess, since we're on the whole Catalyst thing, is Matt, there's another proposal with the Privacy Alliance for KYC. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah, we can get into that. That would be good. So I'm excited about the Cardano Privacy Alliance initiative. There's been a ton of interest from other projects that might end up needing to KYC in the future. And what really where this came from is if you look at the stack of proposals that are in the build on Atala Prism category, a lot of them are basically like, pay us to use Prism for our platform. And we thought about having a similar proposal where we would say, well, we'd like to have Mehen issuing KYC approved DIDs into people's Atala Prism wallets. So then we could have somebody who comes, if Blockjock does a KYC, we drop a KYC DID into Blockjock's wallet, and then maybe he can go somewhere else and use that to prove that he's a solid citizen. The problem with that is, though, that nobody else is going to reasonably accept that. We wouldn't accept anybody else's. We have to do our own risk analysis. We have to have our own standards, and we have to go through a process ourselves to determine the suitability of a partner that we would take on risk for. So really what we need to do is step back a second and talk to the others who might eventually accept a DID. So we talked to Meld. Meld is going to be doing KYC. We talked to this new protocol that's launching soon called Twin. They'll be doing KYC. We talked with like the Session Cruises of the world and the Andrew Westbergs of the world that are doing these music platforms that have to KYC their artists and understand who they're working with on that provider side. And eventually the DEXs, I think, may need to, at least at the very lowest level, confirm that they're not working with OFAC sanctioned individuals. So they'll need to go through some sort of a very light assurance there. And what we'd like to do is we'd like to have a situation where in Cardano, everybody can go to any one of the providers that you should choose that's part of this alliance, and then get a DID that is privacy preserving KYC. So that's kind of where we're at, and we need to come up with a standard that everybody can work within, that we all agree to issue the DID according to, and then go forward from there. So that's what the Cardano Privacy Alliance is all about. It's all about having everybody come together to make minimum standards and then use that to issue a DID that can be interoperable for the entire Cardano ecosystem. And then as other people come on, they can use the similar process to add their DIDs to the mix of ones that are all basically interoperable. Just like, imagine like there's 50 states plus a couple territories that issue driver's licenses, and they're all accepted by the other states because they're all issued with a very similar sort of basic requirements. And that's kind of what we would like to do within Cardano, where we say, well, we all issued our own DID. We all did KYC to this level. Here's the track record and the history, and then we can go forward from there and all work together. And that's what this is all about. We've got a dozen or so projects that are interested in working together, and I'll keep reaching out to different ones that might want to be involved. And the more that we talk about it, I think the more the word gets out, and folks and people raise their hand and they come on and join. So hopefully that'll work out. That's not exactly a Mehen proposal. It's more of a community proposal, but I think that they go hand in hand, because if anybody's asking you, give us money so we can integrate Atala Prism DIDs for KYC, they're really missing the point, because that Atala Prism DID for KYC won't actually be useful anywhere else until everybody else has come up with a standard that we can all work within.
That's fantastic. Yeah, so if you wanted to see what that KYC Privacy Alliance was, or the Cardano Privacy Alliance, it is in the, it's in the top right there. Just click the link and you'll be able to check it out, see who's involved, and it's an ever-growing list of people. So if you want to get involved, you're a project that's doing KYC, we can come on to Discord. Also, there's a call to action. Click our socials. This is very important for us. It helps us grow. It helps push Cardano in the future. If you come to the Discord, you can talk to us, be part of our ever-growing community. It's very important. Follow Mehen account. It helps us a bunch if you follow the account. It helps a lot. So if there's any other questions, please request. It's always hard to tell if Twitter's bugging or not. I see a request for one, but I don't see anyone actually requesting.
Hey, Pyro.
Yes.
Just so everybody knows, so if you scroll 3 back, you're going to see the pinned tweet that I put up. That is surrounding the Discord. It'll take you directly there. And then from there, you can join the community and lend your voice, your energy, ideas. Really anything. We would love to have you there and be able to bring you on as part of the Mehen team and work out those things that we need to work out within our Cardano blockchain.
Yeah. All right. So there you go. There's 3. Another question I guess is, can you discuss the onboarding new partners businesses that to accept and use stablecoin? We've already talked about that. We've talked about this person's questions about the Oracle. Let's see. What advantages and benefits? Okay, all right. I think we've talked quite a bit. So if anybody has any new questions, we got Jarhead coming up. Fantastic. Hey, Jarhead. We appreciate you coming up.
Yeah. Hey, how you guys doing? So I kind of wanted to talk about the Catalyst proposal about the legislation. What's it called here? I have it brought up. Yeah, creating conditions for DeFi success in California. Are you guys familiar with that? It's from, I believe, Continuum Loop, or at least part of that team, and they're part of the Cardano Privacy Alliance. So that's what I'm asking.
That's what Tony Rose is doing. He's put together a group of people that are going in front of the California regulators to see if DIDs.
I think Blockjock fat fingered.
I did. I'm sorry, Matt. Go ahead. Start over. My bad.
That's a project that I think that if you piece together really 3 projects, there's one from, I believe it's MinSwap. If you have a second one, it's the one from the Cardano Privacy Alliance, and the third one is this California one. If you consider them all together, you have the projects. The MinSwap one is putting together like a use case, or maybe it's MuseSwap. I forget which DEX it is, but it's basically we'll open source the software that's required to put KYC into a platform, or put Atala Prism into a platform to do KYC and other DID functions. Then you think about, well, the legal basis for that is going to be the one from the California project, and then the individual projects will come up and adopt their standards based on an interoperability standard that's built on the Cardano Privacy Alliance. So these 3 can kind of be viewed together as the one that does the technology, the one that does the law, and the one that then onboards the projects and collaborates.
Yeah, so I assume trying to attack California first, or tackling California first, is a strategic move. But might a different state be a little more accepting? And even though a lot of the things that go through to the federal level come from California first. Might not be spearheaded in another state a little bit easier?
I don't know. I think that it's a tough hill to climb in California because I guess they're hostile to. Is California hostile to crypto? I think they have a pretty
They
good
are.
regulatory regime for crypto when it comes to
Just a little
having a
side note.
virtual asset service provider license regime, right?
Just a little side note with California, they put out just recently, I was issued this as well because I hold crypto and I also, in a corporation within California, I was told that the staking yields were not available to me. Coinbase put out a notice surrounding that, and they were going to start working with California on trying to figure out how to get around that particular thing or why it is that they're putting that out there and stopping Coinbase from allowing anybody from the state of California to generate yield. And so, yeah, they are a bit hostile. They're the first one that I know of. I don't know anybody else that's doing that. Maybe somebody else could comment on it. But yeah, they are a touch hostile right now.
But I think if they accept it, it'll be accepted in a lot of other places. And I would say that
Yeah.
if you could come up with maybe there's probably two places where if they accept that and make a standard, it'll be accepted most other places, and that's California and New York. And I think right now New York is not the place to go.
I see. Yeah, well, I hope God, I hope it's enough money to actually kind of push this through or hire the lobbyists. And we all hate lobbyists, but they're necessary evil, right?
Yeah, that's on Tony Rose. I don't want to pass the buck, but that's his project, and we're hoping that it's part of this. It's a good important puzzle piece, but it's really outside of kind of the scope of what I'm trying to do with bringing the community together.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for answering my questions. Even though it's not your project, I did see you as part of that, the CPA. So I figured you might know something about it.
Yeah, happy to be supportive of that one, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. I'll give a few minutes to go around to see if anybody requests. But on stage, does anybody want to give last-minute thoughts about Mehen, about AMA, or what we've seen today? We could start with Matt and then go around.
Who? Plumas first.
It could be Plumman, or it could be Plutus. Plutus, you want to start? Just final thoughts.
Let me think. No, yeah, I think we got this. I'm really appreciative of all the questions, and I'm really looking forward to when we launch this. But I think we're in a good spot. So yeah.
Fantastic.
So casual, such casual confidence. I think the one question that nobody asked that maybe somebody would ask is what's preventing you guys from just running off with the treasury? Is the Oracle locking your bank account? And there's a lot of internal processes that we have in place to control the bank account, and certainly allowing one person to direct funds is out of scope. So we have what would be essentially a multi-sig bank account that needs to be, backed with certain signing keys and that type of thing. So we have high security that's getting put into that reserve account as well. So nobody runs off with it. That's the other question that you usually would expect to get, but we just never got it. But I'm also kind of cautiously optimistic about our ability to complete this and build it and launch it again, setting expectations properly. First, we'll operate in a limited number of states, and then as various other states come on board in a parallel fashion, we'll continue to pursue the virtual asset service provider license in the British Virgin Islands, and then from there we'll end up being able to serve a very wide portion of the globe. Oh, Jared's got a question.
Yeah, I do. And this might be putting the cart before the horse, but I'm kind of curious your thoughts on the innovation fund and the treasury. Is this a separate company altogether, or is it like an umbrella corporation underneath Mehen? How does that work, and how does the funding work there? And what agility do you expect to have with the funding? Will it kind of act like catalyst where, quarterly something will happen and, people will propose and then you release funds, or is it going to be more flexible and agile?
We haven't really scoped that out yet. I mean, frankly,
Well,
we'd like to get the product launched first and then get there. Steve, do you have anything? Sorry to step on you.
no, it's okay. Well, just hit me for a second because I was for. I think I understood what the question was. Sorry,
I asked a lot. I asked a lot, man. So I get it.
Yeah. So the last fund. So for my Ada Bounties project, they changed the reporting requirements and they changed how the funds are distributed. And that Fund 9 was under the DApps, and that was like the trial to see how things were all going to work. And I thought it worked pretty well. There's some things that can be improved upon, but it worked pretty well. So I believe they're using that system then going forward for everything else. So if the project does get funded through Catalyst, we would have to meet our milestones, basically a project schedule. And at each milestone marker, we would have to submit a report. And then at that point, we can get funding. So, for example, my Ada Bounties, I had 5 milestones. You do get the initial payment that helps kick it off to get going. And I think not one milestone can't be more than 30% of all your funds. So basically that just gives more accountability to people who are never delivering anything, and basically getting paid for the entire thing. So they would give us an initial funding, and then from that point, then we would have to provide proof of our progress and us completing milestones to continue getting paid. Hopefully that's where you're going with your question, but that would end up being like how it works out.
I think what Jarhead was going at was on the roadmap is the stablecoin is first, and then kind of DAO governance to direct where the interest for the fiat portfolio goes. And as we kind of approach the launch window, the puzzles that are entering our mind are things such as how do you incentivize DEX liquidity? How do you build deep, stable trading pairs? How do you get this token into the hands of as many people as possible? And so that's what we're thinking about. So as we go through the process of the stablecoin reserve is going to generate interest. It'll get 4 or 5% interest based on whatever the current rate environment is. And then that will be the money we use to pay for the operation of the Mehen platform. So as we think about, well, what can we do? We'll have a certain amount of money it takes us to operate, but then beyond that, there will be extra that we need to go and reinvest back into the Cardano community. And so how is that going to be distributed, right?
Oh, so, I'm sorry. Yeah,
right now we are in the thick
alt version of Catalyst. Yeah.
Yeah, we're eyeballs deep in we're neck deep in figuring out how to bring this thing to market and live. But I think that there's a project that I have linked on my bio called Mavikai. That's a crowdfunding concept that is something that I've got a little hobby horse that's in my back pocket that would be a SEC registered crowdfunding platform that would allow people to do crowdfunding and to have actually tokenized equity so that they would own the project legally, and that these tokens would then be securities, actually like declared as securities, equity securities that are traded on chain. And there's a little bit of legal innovation that needs to happen, and there's a little bit of technological innovation that needs to make this work. And if you've been following, a couple of the Cardano YouTubers have reported on the fact that I've put together an inquiry into buying the Cardax exchange and really talking to them about acquiring that, because that technology could be useful to bridge USDM across to Ethereum, but it also could be useful to launch crowdfunding, do crowdfunding sites and launch these efforts into the community. So I think that as long as Catalyst is the only source of funds for development or for sort of exploratory development on Cardano, we're not going to be getting very far. We need to actually have more community-funded community-funded projects that are funded in such a way that the investors have protections and legal protections to actually own the platform. So the complication with buying Cardax is the guy raised $9 million, built the platform to 70% completion and then quit. And now he wants to sell it again to a new buyer. So that's kind of the messy part of doing a token sale. That's not where your tokens are not securities. The token's not securities, and so you don't really have any sort of legal protections that you can, as a token holder, enforce against the project if the project should not deliver. So yeah, the Mavikai thing could be a way to start, and then a bit of the reserve interest would go into seeding some of these crowdfunding sites that could then go toward innovations that people could build on. And then not only would be Mehen granting or investing in companies, it would also be an opportunity for individuals to also invest alongside us and have a stake in the game as well, and as well as legal protections for investors. And so that's really way off on the horizon, hobby horse, but it's something that I've definitely given a lot of thought to. Yeah, that's kind of where we are.
I like hobby horses. They're good.
Right. And so, yeah, we're not just stopping here at USDM. We have a huge vision for the future. The team is fantastic. We all work really hard. We've been doing this for a year, putting bricks next to each other and just coming up with new innovative ways, as Maddie say, to trailblaze on our UTXO blockchain platform. So, Steve, did you want to give any final thoughts?
No, just, we do have a bit of work to do yet. Our goal is to have our testnet instance up and running before Rare Evo. I know a couple of us will be there, so if you are there, we aren't going to have a booth, but we'll be present. None of us, as far as I know, are hiding our faces. Mine's my avatar right here. So if you see us, just hit us up, and we can chat. So that's about it.
Blockshot.
Yes, sir. I just echo what Steve just said. We will be cruising around. Just look for the grayish headed guy in the space that you'll be walking around in, and that most likely is me. Come say hi. We'd love to talk to you and get to know you, maybe a project that you're thinking about or that you're doing or thinking about bringing forward in the future. We'd love to talk about that as well. And we're all about Cardano. Pyro, great job today, man. The space has been amazing. And for anybody, as far as community goes, like I said, please click on the Discord, cruise on in, say hi, and throw out your questions there or any ideas that you might have. We'd love to have you there.
All right. Well, I'm going to take the last few minutes to do a call to action. Please join and follow our socials. Click this Mehen link and click the bell icon. Anytime we say anything, get notified. Go to the Discord. If you go to the prompter and go back 3, you'll be able to find a Discord link and join, be part of the community. Help us push Cardano forward. Again, we are drawn from the community. We have stake pool operators. We got people who are been funded in Catalyst, DApp developers, blockchain engineers, people who, like Matt, who's been in the banking industry for 20 plus years, and whatever Pyro is. So we appreciate every single one of you guys that have come here to this AMA. And stood through us through this last 2 hours. And I hope that we see you soon.
Only 15 years, Pyro. Thank you.
Only 15 years.
I'm going to go. I like 20 better. Next time we talk about it, he's had 21 years. We're just going to add a year every time we have a Mehen Monday.
There you go. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Bye.